welcome everybody to our municipal plan update and informational community meeting. My name is Rebecca Stevens. I am the chair of the Planning Commission here in Rutland City. And I'd like to take a moment just to introduce our other members that are here tonight. We have Erin Hildebrand. Hello. And Jared Blake. And we also have with us today the staff that's behind all of our planning and zoning magic. We have Ed Bove and Luke Alexander right over there. So tonight's meeting is going to be an update that is going to be provided, and then we're going to have a nice time of some information and question time and discussion. And it's really just about looking at and answering questions and getting your input on what we want Rutland City to look like moving into the future. So this is very exciting. This is the fun part of planning that we all like to be part of, and we're grateful that you're all here tonight. And I'm going to turn it right over to Michael Allen. He is with Regrowth Planning, and he is the consultant working with the Planning Commission on this, and I'm going to turn it right over to Michael. So please welcome him.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out today. As Rebecca mentioned, my name is Michael Allen with Regrowth Planning. My role in this process is really to assist the Planning Commission and the city with an update to the city municipal plan. And as mentioned, many of the folks on the Planning Commission are here with us right now. They're eager to hear what everyone has to say, try and get some input. And I'm just glad that we're all have this opportunity to have a community discussion about what you'd like to see for the future. Now, municipal town plans really act as a guide stone to a community. They serve as an official sort of policy-making instrument for the city for planning and future policy. It covers topics such as land use, zoning, transportation, infrastructure, roads, housing, and so forth, and really sort of sets the tone for what the future of the town and the city is supposed to look like and achieve. So it's an opportunity for us to sort of take stock in where we are right now and try and assess how things are going and how do we want to adjust to the future. And once adopted, those plans really have to be followed by the city. The city can't do anything that contravenes what the policies and goals are of that plan. So it acts in many ways as a steering mechanism or a guide rail to get the town going and the city going in the right direction. So all of this adds up to the overall vision of the community, and that's why these plans are important. Because there's a lot of information involved in all of this process, and the process is slated to take about a year to complete, we've set up an information page which acts as sort of a central clearinghouse for everything, so you don't have to go digging through the city website looking for all the info. Right now, if you visit that site, this is what it looks like right now, a Rutland City Municipal Plan Update. The address to get to it is www.tinyurl.com Rutland City Plan. Try and keep it pretty straightforward. I'm going to take this web address and put it down in the corner, which is now, I realize, blocked by the closed captioning, but it'll be down there for the rest of the show, so in case you need to reference it later on. So, on this informational webpage, we have just general information about what it is that we're trying to accomplish, how this process will work. We have a section on latest announcements, so you can check and see what's the next step in the process and what's going on. We have a timeline and schedule of how we expect or anticipate this process to roll out. And we have also links to many background documents that might be useful for folks to sort of catch up on some of the things that have happened, including the current plan right now, adopted in 2020, city zoning map, the land development regulations, which were just updated, as well as several other studies, a hazard mitigation plan, and housing needs assessment, and some other reference documents, which are useful background to a lot of this discussion. We're putting them all in one place so that you have access to find those pretty easily. We also have, this meeting is being recorded right now, so we're going to have a recording meeting video up probably tomorrow, I'll say. So if you know anybody who missed tonight's meeting, wasn't able to attend, they should have this video up tomorrow for them, as well as some meeting notes in a couple of days when I'm done going through everything. We'll have meeting notes, and then as we get farther along in the process, as we start to prepare some draft materials, we'll also start to post those here on the webpage so that the public will have an opportunity to look at stuff in advance before we have a meeting and so forth. And that way, you have a little bit of opportunity to review things. And lastly, it also has at the bottom of the page a sort of frequently asked questions section, which covers a lot of the general questions that people generally have about processes like these. So another part of the web page that we've set up is an online questionnaire and comment form. And the idea behind this is really act as the main sort of tool for collecting information from the public. The idea is to make it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And it will serve a couple of different functions. One, it's collecting input on a number of questions that we're interested in getting specific input on, and it's also acting as just as a comment form. So later on, when we post draft materials and you have a comment about some ideas that we've posted, you can put in some comments and send it to us. All these comments will come to me. So the online questionnaire and comment form, you can reach it by clicking this yellow button here on the web page. And when you do that, it will bring you to another page I'll show you in a second. It allows you to provide early input on the plan and submit comments throughout the process. When you click on that button, it brings you to a page that looks essentially like this. And it starts with a question asking, are you a resident of Rutland City, property owner in the city, business owner in the city, or are you from the town or surrounding areas? And then it begins to ask a series of open-ended questions where you can write in your own responses. It only shows one line right now, but as you start to type, the space gets bigger and it will allow you to write much more. Just please don't go all like crazy manifesto on me. I appreciate that. So ask a couple of open-ended questions, which we're hoping to get input on, and then there's at the bottom, there's a space for other comments, for any other comments you might have. Maybe you got back home and you thought, oh, I should have mentioned this at the meeting, or somebody has an idea, response to some of the draft materials that we've posted, you can put that in here, send it along. Then the optional is an email sign up if you want to be on an email list to be notified of any announcements we might have. I find it useful in case we have to postpone or reschedule a meeting because of bad weather, as we've surprised like we have tonight. So that way I can send out an email blast to everybody saying, hey, look, we're canceling or rescheduling the meeting. It's useful. I promise I won't spam anybody. And then at the bottom, just please make sure you click the submit button at the bottom. Once you do, all responses that are going to be coming in will come to me. I will periodically share those and review those with the Planning Commission as we're working on things. And then I'll also, probably about once a week, take the comments that we've collected and update them and put them on the informational webpage so you can read what other people's ideas and comments and so forth that have come along. So that's the main idea behind that, and try and keep it as open and transparent as possible. I'm going to be advertising this online questionnaire and comment form over the next 2 to 3 months throughout the city to try and get as many people to try and provide input as possible. And the ideas that you guys send in, we're going to use to start to formulate some ideas, some goals, strategies, and so forth for the plan. So just briefly what our schedule looks like right now. Tentatively, this is subject to change, but what we'd like to do right now, the project started in November. We're having this public meeting right now here in February. Throughout, I'd say March and April, we'll be running the online questionnaire form, trying to collect as much input as we can from folks. And then after that, in early spring, May, June, develop some draft goals and so forth, working with the Planning Commission based on different facts that's coming in and the public input, develop some draft goals. At the end of that, we'll have a presentation, public presentation of the draft goals and objectives that we've developed, get people's feedback, yes, no, do you like what we've come up with or not. Based on that, we then adjust things and start to pull together, draft the actual plan, putting those goals and objectives into the plan. That would probably happen, I'm thinking, around in the July-August period. In September, we would have a presentation of the draft plan, much like tonight, present everything that it says. A copy will be posted on the informational webpage for you to look at in advance. So we would have a presentation of that draft plan, get any comments, up, down, yes, no. And then after that, I'm thinking in October, November, draft the final plan and prep it to be ready for adoption by the city. And once we get into the public, there will be public hearings and adoption process that'll probably take about 3 months generally, but that's the idea. So I wanted to have a session where we have numerous points along the process where the public is invited to come in, and we can do a sort of assessment of what do you all think of where we are. So that's the main idea there. So the Rutland plan, I'm going to move this over here now. The Rutland plan, the city has had master plans, municipal plans for several decades, going back to the 1960s, possibly earlier. I'm not sure. I'd check with Ed on that. But they are really sort of snapshots in time of various points in the city's history. They have to be updated approximately every 8 years because we want to be able to stop, take assessment of where we are, what are the current issues, and see if we need to make adjustments. So they need to be updated about every 8 years. And they should reflect any sort of changes in the community that have been happening. And as we are here tonight, they also need to include public input, some sort of interaction where we reach out to the public and make sure that we're getting input from folks who live and work and own property here. Some common themes looking through all of the old plans. There's some notable ideas and issues that have popped up over the years and over the decades that the city has always kind of been trying to resolve. One of those is, especially more recently, a lot of vacancy in the upper floors of buildings downtown. That's an issue that's been repeatedly mentioned in plans that have tried to develop some strategies to adjust that. Another theme is a recurring effort to try and improve the aesthetics of the town, of the city as you're entering into the city and downtown. Improve the sort of the gateways, if you will, of the approach as you're coming into the city. Also, the redevelopment of the downtown plaza, particularly now with Walmart now relocating. It might be another opportunity to revisit that theme and maybe see what opportunities it presents as far as doing something different there that might better reflect the historic sort of built pattern of the city. And also there's a lot of underutilized potential housing just out around the downtown. That's been a common theme. The city has a great deal of housing stock which is pretty old, and a lot of it isn't being utilized as well as it could be. The current plan right now looks like this. It was adopted in 2020, right around when COVID hit. So most of the plan was written before COVID. And as we know, that changed a lot of dynamics for everybody. And it provides, it does a very good job of providing a lot of narrative detail and data about the existing conditions of the city, exactly what is happening at that point right then in the city, but it doesn't really provide a lot of guidance on the future or what steps we want to take. So in that regard, the current plan doesn't really have, I think, a lot of vision for the future, and that's something that we would like to change in this overhaul. So we would really like to completely rebuild this plan from the ground up, really focusing on what do we want the future to look like, and what are the steps involved to maybe get toward that. It's something I think the current plan is a little bit weak on, and I'd like to sort of flip that script, if we will. For example, in reading through the plan identifies some notable and good goals that we would like to work toward, such as enhance the quality of life for all city residents. But it doesn't really say how, or what does that really look like, and what are the steps that we would take, or promote economic development, or increase the population, improve the housing stock. But the plan doesn't really go into, well, okay, how, where, how are we doing that? So these are some of the issues I'd like to try and address in the plan update with everybody. Luckily for us, I should just make a dedicated spot for that. Luckily for us, the city's been busy for the last several years doing a lot of research and studies on some of the things that have been happening and some of the issues that have been happening. There have been 2 housing studies, one within the City of Rutland, one the Rutland region. There's been a gateway study looking at the aesthetics and providing some ideas about what are some improvements we can make, physical improvements to improve the aesthetics as you're entering into the city. Reimagine Rutland strategic plan, which really looked at the dynamics of the local business environment and so forth, and what are some ways that Rutland can strategize what sort of jobs and businesses it would like to attract, and how to attract those. The Innovation District Placemaking Plan, which really looks at how do we improve the sense of place of Rutland and creating a nice environment for people to live and work and so forth, a nice and friendly environment that's welcoming and attractive. And then also residential zoning analysis, which really looks at the way the zoning has been in the past, really covers wide swaths of neighborhoods that were all built in various different time periods. It doesn't always reflect the nuances of each neighborhood, and are there ways that we can adjust those to maybe provide some more flexibility for homeowners to do some work, expand their house, and do some, incentivize some rehabilitation on them to try and get some of this housing turned over. So our approach is right now taking a lot of these studies right now and going through them and figuring out what recommendations they have that haven't been already started or started to be implemented. What can we carry forward and bring into the plan to help inform the plan? And then also combining that with collecting input from the public to see what are the new goals and strategies that we would like to have, and put that all together in a completely new plan that provides much better direction and vision for what we're looking to do. So before we jump into hearing from everybody, which is the reason we're here, I want a quick recap on some of the things that have changed in the years since the last plan was adopted, because quite a bit has changed. Obviously, we had the COVID pandemic, which brought with it a lot of migration, especially into Vermont and the more rural areas around here. We've seen a very dramatic rise in a lot more home occupations that are being developed. A lot of people then quitting their job and starting their own businesses, which has had an effect on many markets. We've seen a continued rise in popularity of short-term rentals, which brings with it, some investment in local opportunities with people coming to visit, but it also puts a squeeze on some of the local housing stock, especially for rental units. We've seen a continued rise in online shopping with regards to more people buying stuff from Amazon that just gets delivered right to your house. It's sort of increasing in demand, and this has had also a corresponding effect on the decline of demand for retail and office spaces. So a lot more retailers right now, in order to compete with the online market, they usually have to be very specialized, providing something that isn't easily available online, or it's providing an experience, if you will, as far as the customer experience that they can't get from an online shop, and or having a footprint both as a brick and mortar retail space and having an online presence as well. These are some of the things that folks are starting to have to do to compete with the online market. We're also obviously seeing a dramatic rise in housing costs. Vermont being one of the most heavily influenced or impacted states based on the housing costs issue, this is becoming important, and it's probably going to be one of the biggest issues of the plan, I'm guessing, because a lot of people are finding it just much more difficult, if not impossible, to be able to afford a place to live nowadays. We're also just more broadly dealing with an aging population. Vermont is particularly prone to having an older population than the nation in general. We have a lot of people who are entering or nearing going into retirement age, and we do not have a lot of younger people necessarily to backfill that and take over their space. So there's a need for more younger folks. This is causing a workforce shortage statewide, something that Rutland is going to need to address and be aware of. And that's something that one element of the plan is how to attract and bring in younger folks, younger workers and so forth into the market, because Rutland is going to be competing with all the other places around the region for a lot of these workers. And of course, much more locally here, another issue, a big change, is Walmart relocating out of downtown, something that is perhaps an opportunity for us as far as looking at what that plaza looks like. And then some elements of what's new in the city. Since the adoption of the last plan, we've seen the new rec center at College of St. Joseph campus being developed. The wonderful Kids Museum just across the street opening up. Amtrak service now offering service up to Burlington is added, which was new. The Woodstock Avenue road reconstruction was completed not too long ago. The Mint and Hub CoWorks right here, these spaces being created and provided to the public. The city zoning was recently updated last fall. The downtown tax increment financing district was passed and created, and with it bringing a number of important projects throughout the city, which I think we'll be trying to do some of the things that we're going to be talking about in this plan. And also finally, some of the Rutland Creek Path segments being completed and the ongoing work that's been happening with that. Coming soon, as you probably know, the new downtown hotel at the former Berwick Hotel site. Water lines for Center and Wales Street going to be happening later this year. Ongoing with the Paramount Theater restoration. The Richardson building is now being renovated, and the Center Street redevelopment project coming up. So a lot has changed for good and bad, but a lot of things have been accomplished since that, and I just wanted to throw those out there as food for thought as we start to begin this discussion. So in asking folks tonight, what is your vision? We do have already some comments that have come in online through the online comment form. Some samples. One person mentioned we need more free and low-cost activities for teens and more affordable housing. Another person mentioned skate park and public recreation, more easy things for youth to get involved in. And another one, please, can we get some other ideas brewing on a movie theater? This is really a huge bummer. So I thought that was funny. Anyway, so as we pass it over to the audience, I'm going to have a microphone that we're going to pass around so we make sure that a local TV station can hear everybody. But I wanted to ask all of you here, what issues do you want to make sure we cover in this plan update? And then perhaps more specifically, what would you like the future of Rutland to be like? And I want to just kind of now turn it over to folks here, and we'll just have a discussion. I'm going to, if I do this right, I feel like this is a lightsaber. So with that, open it up to discussion. Is there anybody that has any thoughts, comments, that would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah. hold on, let me see if I can get this to you.
I have lots of things. It's working.
It's okay, yeah, I guess he can hear, it doesn't broadcast,
Okay.
so.
I have lots of things to share, lots of ideas, of course, anybody who knows me knows that. One of the biggest problems that I've seen is that a lot of things are inaccessible to a lot of people here as far as accessibility goes. We have a huge population of folks in our community and in Vermont in general who live with disabilities, and those folks are not able to get out and do things, and even if they are, they can't get down the sidewalks, they can't get through the doors. Things are out on second stories, there's no access or elevators. So as we're building new things or renovating new things or thinking about multi-use housing, I think it's really important, especially with an aging population, to consider making sure we have accessible buildings, housing, shopping, things like that, so that these folks can participate in the community because people want to, they just can't even get in the door in a lot of places.
Okay, thank you. I suspect we'll be bringing the microphone back to you in a moment. You probably have more than one thing to say. Thank you. I'm never as good as Donahue in this. For those of you who know who Donahue was. Anybody else? Yes, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, that was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I think Rutland has these amazing natural assets, like waterfalls and creeks and buildings overlooking parks, that it would be great to see a plan that is thinking about those assets, and really planning around them. What I've noticed right now is that mostly next to these assets are industrial areas, and that makes sense because I guess back in the day they needed the creek.
By the water.
They needed to be by the water, right? But that's not the case today, and so now when we think about creating wonderful places for people to live, these natural assets become really important. And so thinking about those and planning around them would be wonderful and make Rutland a more beautiful place to live.
Right. Thank you. I realize handing folks the microphone sometimes makes people more shy. If I take the microphone away, are you more likely to?
Well, and I did the survey before I got here, so I
excellent.
wrote down my answer to the last couple, which is where you're starting at the end and working back. But I did say about creating a reputation for safety and for public safety, a reputation for public safety, and establishing a strong reputation as a pro-business city. And then in the additional comment section below that, because I couldn't resist, I included reverse the declining population and shrinking grand list with new opportunities to live, work, and do business within the city limits. Within the city limits.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you. How many, just a show of hands, how many folks have already found the online comment form and submitted? You have, anybody else? Just one? Okay, maybe two. Well, you don't count. You already. So yeah, that's really one of the ways that we're hoping to collect input. So obviously, if you get home this evening and you think of something else, or you're talking to somebody who wasn't able to make it, please point them toward that, and we'd like to hear. Toward the topic of reputation for public safety, do you care to elaborate on that any?
Well, yeah, sure, since you asked. Very simply that right now, whether it's perceived or reality, and the volume of calls in the city show that it's more of a reality than perceived, but they both work against the opportunity for attracting the younger families you're talking about, the people who want to live here, to work here, and then the businesses to invest here. So that goes, one begets the other. I think it goes hand in hand with the economic development. We have to make sure that we bring that public safety reputation back to the city so that we can get people to move here, to live, work, and to invest here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I think personally I would like to focus on is particularly any ways that we can improve just the general appeal of Rutland. I think would go a long way toward attracting folks and making it a more desirable place to either just visit or work or live. And that I think is one of the things that I definitely want to make sure that we look at. So, and that speaks to that. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments?
I guess I would just make a quick comment. I don't need the microphone unless you need me to hold it.
The only TV station does need to be able to hear you. So there we go.
I would just hope that there's been a lot of work going on the last year or two in different committees throughout the city and Rutland County, and I would just hope that and some of the folks that have been involved in those committees are in this room, and I would just hope that those would take into advisement in the city plan so that we're not having duplicative conversations and things that have already been talked about and presented to hundreds of people, and just to make sure that we're not just doing work that maybe already has been done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, one of the reasons that I mentioned some of the other studies that have been done in the last 5 or 6 years is because I want to make sure that we encapsulate those. There may be some other work that's happened prior to that, and I rely on Ed and the city planning department to help me flush those out. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd say in line with the reputation of crime is the reputation of substance abuse here. I think we have a strong and poor reputation for a lot of drug use happening, but there's also a lot of good sobriety and recovery happening as well. And I'd like to see some more of that highlighted.
Okay. Thank you.
I just co-authored a report on it's a landscape analysis of social connection in Rutland County and how isolation and loneliness are affecting our population. We also did a survey of folks throughout the county, not just for Rutland City. That information could, I think, really help in this planning process, and I'm happy to share that. Disconnection is leading to a lot of isolation and loneliness. So, and then that is really the root cause of all these other issues that we're seeing with crime and violence and harmful substance use and lack of people wanting to move here, or issues with retaining employees or attracting new businesses. It really all comes down to where we disconnected and the isolation and loneliness that's driving those factors in we're not able to find sustainable solutions for those things because we have to get under them. So I would really like to work with you all on working with that social isolation, loneliness, and connection, because I think it will help buoy these other things. And it's really they all come together. They're
Okay.
all connected.
Do you mind, because I'm not thoroughly versed in exactly what, as far as the social isolation element of that is, can you give like a kind of a summary or explanation of what it's really about, or?
Yeah, isolation and loneliness are two different things. Loneliness is more about the perception, you feel so alone, and then isolation is more of physical isolation or being socially isolated. And so there's a lot of factors that go into that. It comes to inequities, like accessibility and lack of inclusion and things like that. But it's also like we need better transportation. And we need to be really creative about transportation because this is a rural community. So people need to not only get to doctor's appointments and shopping, but they also need to get to social settings where they can be around other human beings and feel less alone. And the more we can do that, where we have places that we can gather inclusively, where everyone can feel like they can be there and feel safe in that space, then the more we can see each other as human beings, the more we don't demonize each other, the more we have a happier, healthier community. And there's a lot of data around this around the world. I'm working with people around the world on this that I can bring to this process.
Okay, thank you. And I assume COVID probably didn't help with
No, it was all a problem before COVID, and it only worsened with
Right.
COVID. But we are in an epidemic of loneliness globally right now.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Nice. Yes, oh, perfect. You make it nice and easy for me.
Yeah, when it comes to highlighting the natural assets in the Rutland area, I feel like along Otter Creek, it's such a beautiful river that there's no accessibility for people to actually fish and boat along it.
Right.
And that can bring so much more interest into the area and other sorts of jobs. And along the same lines of transportation, it's kind of crazy that we have all these bus stops without a single bench or any cover when it's 0 degrees out on a hospital route and just old people are sitting in the snow. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any folks? Oh, there we go.
I have a couple of issues. First one is we have a major headquarters here in Rutland, that's Casella, and I'm the chair of the Solid Waste District. And things are changing very much so in solid waste. And we should use Casella, who's already here, and build facilities to reuse products that we have in the waste stream. Right now, we have a pre-sort facility right here in Rutland. They're sending everything out of state and out of country. Why aren't we producing it here, building it here, and then resell it? That's an opportunity, because they're already here. Second thing is walkable neighborhoods. We need to connect the neighborhoods into, by a simple bridge on Pine Street, a simple when the plaza gets moved around, we connect to the Happy Valley, if you want to call it that. Connect that neighborhood like we used to do during the 50s and 60s. People used to walk to work. We need to have a walkable community. I think that's very important. That would go right down the theme here along the riverfront. We have a waterfront here. People don't realize it. Let's utilize that.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned the water. Were you saying that the bridge? I'm not familiar with the Happy Valley. Is this
So
the
the backside of
railroad?
the plaza.
What's that?
The backside of the plaza, that whole
Okay.
neighborhood.
So is the railroad acting as a barrier?
Yes, but we got one exit. We should have a couple where people can get across.
Okay. Sorry, just catching up here.
We already have a bike path on the back side of that, but you only cross in one area. So that's an
Anybody else? Any comments on housing? I was actually expecting that to be more of a topic. Not that it's easy solutions, but I want to. I'm skipping ahead here, but while we're on the topic, because I just brought it up, there's a event next week, Wednesday the 18th, to meet the mayoral candidates and also discuss housing. And I want to make sure I get that in right now, just as a reminder to folks, if that's something that you're interested in. We're going to be trying to take part in that, or at least watch that discussion, because we feel that that's going to be interesting. So I wanted to bring that up. Any?
And one more.
Oh, and did you also? Okay.
I just have to be on all these committees.
How many committees are you on?
The TIF district, too many. The TIF district, we need to continue on our plan. That should be in the next 5-year plan, because we only have a 10-year window to complete all these projects that we have on our list. And most of that is housing, by the way, opportunities. So we need to work really hard at that and attract investors in and deal with the housing and deal with the retail downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I'm a developer that's putting new housing in the Happy Valley, or the inner west,
Okay.
the West End, we'll find that out. So some things that need to happen for more people to build housing is standardized tax stabilizations. So just a clear pathway to how much tax you're going to need to pay when you're building a $3 million new building. It can't work if you don't get a tax stabilization. we need to work on landlords who refuse to sell vacant buildings. I can give you 4 or 5 stories of people who are trying to buy buildings to turn them into housing, and the landlord either refuses to sell or refuses to sell for a reasonable price, and wants to, you know, sell it as is and for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that could be vacancy ordinances or things like that. And then my third thought on housing is mixed income is really important. This has been shown many, many times that when you mix low income with middle or higher income in the same building, it's better for the tenants, and it's better for the area as well. And it doesn't seem to be our strategy right now. We seem to put it all in the one space, and so that creates pockets that disparity and disconnection as well. So it would be great to see a plan around how we work, especially on things like transitional housing and low income, working with private developers and partnerships to create mixed income. You see, like in Burlington, any developer has to put in 20, I think it's 5% or something of low income housing. That's just one way, but there's many other ways to do it and to encourage that and bring those organizations to work together.
Okay, thank you. Actually, while I got a follow-up. You mentioned the landlords who were refusing to sell. Do you feel that that's a contributing or a big factor to why we have a lot of vacant homes?
Absentee landlords.
Yeah, and I've actually tried to do some research with the landlords to understand why they don't want to sell, and I think that would be a worthwhile area to explore. Some of them believe that there is going to be a boom at some point, and so
they're
they're
just waiting
just
to
going to sit
cash in
around
that
on it.
ticket?
Yes, and so there's not really any incentive. Like, why would they, to them, anything under 10,000 in tax a year is like nothing, because most of them are millionaires that are out of town, or even in town. Some of the in-town millionaires just sit on them. They've seen lots of booms and busts, and so it feels very risky to invest in building out apartments when maybe in 5 years' time Rutland is not in a boom. So this is like, different perspectives. Some people think the other way, like, oh, I'm not going to invest that much money in this building because in 10 years' time it's not going to be worth that.
Right.
And then finally, there's a lot of the older stock have issues like asbestos and lead, and a lot of the regulations that are around that is a lot of money. Not just money, but it's actually the difficulty in getting people to do it. A lot of them can be booked out for 6 months to a year. They don't advertise. It's just hard. And so I think there's some areas there where the city could assist in making that smoother and easier for landlords that specifically have vacant old buildings that are subject to these new laws to help get them in line with regulations so they can be occupied.
Okay, thank you. So on the point about folks sort of sitting on a lot of these vacant houses, waiting for the right moment to cash in and sell out, you had mentioned that they don't feel right now it's, the reason I'm bringing this up is what I was thinking is rather than trying to figure out a way to get them to sell, is figuring out a way to get them to say, okay, it's not going to move unless they fix it up and incentivize or somehow convince them that they need to put some money into it to make the flip happen. What would be your sense as a developer on the likelihood of that happening?
Like using a carrot rather than a stick to incentivize?
Maybe.
Either way.
The wall here. Yes.
Yeah, I think you need both. So making it easy and simple as you can, but also if you're looking at investing millions of dollars, you want to feel confident about the city in 10 years' time. So having a clear plan of how the city is going to get to X number on a grand list, and showing that, okay, if we build X many houses worth X dollars, then their grand list is gonna be this much, that's bringing the tax rate to Y. You know, like, we could model out some of these things that then show investors, if you put your money in now, in 10 years' time, it's still going to be worthwhile. Connecting with Killington, to be honest, is the biggest driver, I feel, as a developer. The biggest confidence area is a connection with Killington, because it's growing, and we could be its gateway, and it's gonna need workforce housing. And so that gives confidence beyond just Rutland's gonna be the same thing. There is a big reason why it's going to grow. So we need to maintain that connection to Killington, and grow that as a partnership, and see ourselves as, you know, as positively connected to them, and being a part of that community.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot so many times.
Thanks for.
On that point, sorry, before, was one of the things I was imagining was, if we could identify a number of, let's say, a big pool of some of these vacant owners, and get them all to the table simultaneously, and say, if all 20, or however many of you all signed on to this at once, would it give you more confidence if you're all doing this as a pool, that, you know, 20 or 30 houses are all gonna be worked on, if that would increase the likelihood of them, signing on to something, signing on to a carrot, I guess.
And I just wanted to add, because this is the master plan, we want to certainly talk about energy efficiency. So we're talking about developing new housing as well as developing and redeveloping existing buildings, whether it's for business use or other, that we also make sure that we're focusing on the energy efficient standards that we can now achieve, which are tremendous. I actually run an organization that has a 35,000 square foot building on the other side of the tracks over here that was incredibly energy inefficient when I started. We did a major energy efficiency project that added the largest solar array in downtown Rutland on its roof. We did obviously weatherization, including solar glass and energy efficient lighting, and it dropped all of our costs, our monthly energy costs, down, and was of course having less of an environmental impact. So it's a win-win, but that's one of those things when we're thinking about master planning for the city, that we need to make sure that we're thinking about energy efficiency at the same time.
Certainly, and a lot of that work is a big ticket item as far as upfront cost. So it's something that we need to be aware of. Thanks. Oh, yep. Okay. So if I can.
One more.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the conversation on the housing, on the ideas and development. I just want to add, as someone, I have lived in gateway communities, 2 national parks, 2 major ski towns out west, and I've seen how the development was not necessarily managed well from the beginning, and then all of a sudden that gateway community became another unaffordable community hosting millionaires, and the people that work there had to live 30 miles out of town, and where they didn't even have emergency personnel to drive ambulances that could live in the community. So I know a lot of people don't see Rutland as a possibility that can get to something like that, but I've lived in multiple communities that never thought they would be communities like that either. And I see a ton of potential in Rutland becoming a community that really benefits economically off of being close to Killington if we did things a little bit differently and grew that partnership in these unique ways, which is really cool. But I also want to be really careful and thoughtful how we do it, and learn from what's happened out west in those ski towns, so we don't become another gateway community that is even more expensive to live here than it is now. And a lot of people have scoffed at me for saying that, but I've lived it. I've left places and moved away because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to raise a family. And if we want to attract families here that are working people with children, we have to make it affordable still. So as we do that, we need to be really, really smart and careful about how we do it. And like I said, look at examples out west, because it's there.
But we don't even have to look out west. We can look just down the road half an hour in Manchester.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, Manchester's always been more expensive place to live, but now it's gotten incredibly worse. Most of the people that work there don't live anywhere near Manchester. They are commuting from Rutland and Killington and Bennington. People that have lived there for a long time, if they were to sell their house, they can't afford to buy something else and stay in the area. And it's pushed a lot of the locals out. The long-time Vermonters who have been there for a long time now can't afford to live there.
Exactly.
And that's, you don't have to go all the way to Aspen to see what the effects of that are. So, other comments?
Sorry, one more.
Yep. I will get to you, but you've had, we got somebody new here.
I just wanted to jump on to what you were talking about with energy efficiency, the carrot or the stick. I'm more of a stick fan.
Yeah, the carrot is pretty big right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
gotta be a stick.
And really, if you want to see some of these, I've had plenty of interactions with these folks as well. If you want to see what they're going to do to make their property better, it's not what you want done. But just, you know, looking at the building and zoning department, what, you have three people, Mark and two others on building. And something that kind of fell by the wayside recently, I think we discussed, updating the building ordinance, updating, kind of the things that the inspectors are looking at on COs. I think if you look at the city as a whole for certificates of occupancy to see what multifamily properties actually have clean COs, I think you're probably looking at 40 or 50% of them. And there's a lot of these, properties, multifamily properties that are currently occupied or vacant, that don't have safe living conditions, that are incredibly energy inefficient. And really, I think we just, in the city, we don't have the guiding document to enforce it. We don't have it at the state level either, and we don't have the personnel currently to enforce it. If you look at the state, the Vermont Residential Building Energy Standards, there is no enforcement assigned to it other than, hey, you can pursue litigation within 7 years. To loop that in at a city level and adopt, the Vermont Residential Building Energy Standards and adopt that into our city building code, that would be my ideal outcome, and to have folks like Mark going out there and enforcing that, because the state's plan is to have Division of Fire Safety do it, and they can't, unfortunately. I think you'll see a lot of, I do weatherization full time. I get phone calls from new homeowners all the time. Hey, I closed on my house last week, I have pipes freezing. And it just got turned over, it just got done. There was maybe a CO done, but then not pre-drywall, and you're setting these new homeowners up for absolute failure.
For a new home or old home?
For an 1890s house that was
new.
deep energy retrofit. Yeah, new by Vermont standards. Yeah, not 1700s, 1890s, the golden age. But I'm talking deep energy not a deep energy retrofit, just a deep gut renovation rehab, and you've got 3-inch fiberglass and missing vents and everything. Zero insulation, places with loads that are excess of 90,000 BTUs per hour. And you're just setting people up for failure, and you're setting people up to pay $9,000 a year. I've been in homes that folks are paying that, or on average maybe $3,000 a year in heating costs. And the homeowners don't know what they're getting into. Some of the folks that are doing work don't really know the second and third order effects of what they're doing, and unfortunately there's no help with us from the state right now, and I think it's time that we just pivot into it and take the responsibility on as a city and try to update and increase our efficiency and health and safety of the housing stock that we have. We have plenty of it, like you said, it's just been ignored for far too long.
Okay. Thank you.
In the next 5 years, we need to continue to invest in our infrastructure, the water and wastewater systems. It's going to be very important for all this growth that's happening, and the stormwater which is a big issue with Otter Creek. We need to keep our eyes on that. We got a big project at Meadow Street that's gonna happen this summer, but we're gonna have to continue with some other, as the new projects come on, we're gonna have more storm runoff. So we need to plan that in our plan and make sure Public Works is staying on top of it and that we keep investing incrementally into these infrastructure. It needs to keep up with the pace.
Okay, thank you. That's one of the things, as far as a lot of the prior reports, one of the one I haven't really taken a good hard look at yet is the hazard mitigation plan, and that would feed into that. Other thoughts, comments? Otherwise, I'm going to start picking on folks who haven't spoken yet. Anybody? Well, I don't know where we are on time. I don't want to wrap things up early, but I would very much encourage everybody to please take part in the questionnaire, provide whatever insight you have. We're particularly interested, at least at the surface level, of looking at what ways we can improve the city, just the appeal of the city, the attractiveness of the built environment, and trying to build off the strengths that the city already has, sort of historic form and character. And I think that will go a long way. Any other comments are, of course, appreciated. And I also encourage folks to just spread the word, keep it in mind, because it might be a couple of weeks from now you'll be on your way to work or something, and you'll think of something, and you'll be like, oh, here's an idea. And when you get to the office or wherever, send us a comment, and we'd like to incorporate as much of the public ideas as we can. Let me check how we're doing on time. I don't normally run into this issue. Okay. So yeah, I'm not kicking anybody out. We can stay and chat, and feel free. If you are someone who doesn't like to speak publicly, I totally get it, and that's why I have these boards up here that provide some teaser questions just to get folks thinking. Feel free to leave any sticky notes with ideas and so forth that you have if you don't feel like speaking up right now. As I mentioned, the notes and videos from this meeting will be posted. The video probably tomorrow. The notes will take me a couple of days on our informational website. Please encourage folks to fill out the questionnaire. And as I already mentioned, the housing forum next week, Wednesday at, how do I pronounce it? Treviso? Treviso? Treviso. That sounded much better than the way I said it. That would be good. Also because you also get to meet the candidates, so I wanted to put in a plug for that. But then again, here's the informational website, and feel free to stick around and talk. Otherwise, thank you everybody for